God promises to protect his people. God promises to protect his people. And specifically, he says, I will guard you along the way. I was interested in that phrase because a lot of times God is guarding you from things in your life that you don't even know you need to be guarded from. God will guard you along the way, but you will only see it looking back. That's how life works, is that God is doing it for you along the way. Now notice, in order for God to protect you, you have to be in motion. God cannot guard you until you are along the way. And so when you are praying for God to protect you, but you're sitting on your couch doing it instead of obeying the instruction that he's given you, God cannot dispatch his assistants for an assignment that you are not present for.
You need to write that down somewhere. The trouble it endured made it valuable. St. Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 4:8-9, we are troubled on every side. Trouble is coming north, south, east, and west from Christians and non-Christians. But we're not distressed. We're perplexed, but we're not in despair. We're persecuted, but we're not forsaken. We have been cast down, but we're not destroyed. We've got big trouble, he says, but we serve a bigger God than all the trouble of the world, and we are victorious in the name that's above every name. Trouble is resistance. Without the resistance of air, a bird can't fly. Without the resistance of water, a massive ship cannot float. Without the resistance of gravity, you can't walk. Trouble is the womb of greatness. Trouble is the womb of greatness. And God is shaping you to reach your destiny. Remember that God will not place a greater burden on you than you are able to bear. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tested above what you are able to bear.
Psalms 46 and verse 1. God is, not going to be, he is our refuge and a strength. Refuge is a shelter. He shelters us. It's a safe harbor is one of the Hebrew ideas. The ship is in a storm. It finds a safe harbor. God is our safe harbor. A very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear. God is a safe place to hide, ready to help when we need him. We stand fearless at the cliff edge of doom, courageous in sea storms and earthquakes. I believe we can stand fearless and courageous because we know that God has us in his hands. We can trust him, and our confidence can be in him. He is not a distant God. He is present. And you're never alone. He's as close, the scripture says, as your next breath. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. You're never alone. You're not alone today. I know sometimes we get scattered and the isolation is there, but we are not to fear, and we're to understand the promise of the living God. You're not alone. I'm with you. God is with us.
Most of the time we're praying, God, get me out of this challenge. Get me out of this trouble at work. Get me out of this financial setback. And there's nothing wrong with that. But before you get out, you have to invite God in. Sometimes the miracle is not in getting out. It's in what God is going to do in the situation. And instead of just praying, God, get me out, why don't you start praying, God, come in to this hospital room while I take the treatment. Come into this trouble at work where the people aren't fair. Come into this anxiety that I'm dealing with. What's more powerful than God bringing you out is when God comes in and begins to change things. He comes in and gives you favor despite who's trying to push you down. He comes in and gives you strength that you can't explain. grace to outlast what should stop you. And if you're only focused on God bringing you out, then you're going to be disappointed, because God doesn't do things on our timetable. Sometimes it's taking longer than we thought. But when you ask God to come in, you can be at rest. God, I know you're right here with me. You are ordering my steps, and at the right time, you'll get me to where I'm supposed to be.
Living through a season of struggle that doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. Walking through a trial that you have to endure, and it causes you to wonder if you can take the next small step of faith. When this year started, you thought it was going to be a great year of provision, but the provision didn't come. When this year began, you didn't think it would be a season of sickness, and now all you're doing is praying for healing. When this year started, you were filled with hope and enthusiasm, but all you've known is torment and anguish. It has been a long year. It's a year where you've struggled in your business. It's a year where maybe you've struggled in your home or your marriage. It's a year in which the things that you thought you would never see happen, not only did they happen, but they keep happening over and over and over again. First, you cannot give up. When you enter into your long season, you've got to give it all you've got. When people go into a season of struggle, the first thing that they want to do is take a sabbatical. But whenever trouble comes, the only way that you can get through trouble is work your way through it. Don't quit. How did Joseph survive in what others drowned in? Effort. Effort comes before excellence. When Joseph was on his knees scrubbing Potiphar's floors, God was standing over him and he says, I know this doesn't look like much, Joseph, but I promise you, you're closer to the breakthrough than you've ever been before. As a child of God, be a person of excellence. Too many people walk through the long years and they do not survive them. Why? Because rather than give it all they've got, they give up.
We have the privilege of trusting God. No matter what we're going through, we have the privilege of trusting God. All things work together for good. Not all things are good, but all things work together for good to those who love God and who trust Him. Put your trust in God. Don't ever blame God for the wickedness and the evil in the world. And try not to live your life saying, why, God, why? Replace a lot of that with, look, God, I trust you. I know you're good, and I know this is going to work out right.